Hi, I'm Dr. Chua from the National Institute of Education, Singapore. Today, I'm going to review a primary school national examination question that has been drawing attention from the parents and students on social media. Helen and Ivan had the same number of coins. Helen had a number of 50-cent coins and 64 20-cent coins. These coins had a mass of 1.134 kilogram. Ivan had a number of 50-cent coins and 104 20-cent coins. So what is the question asking the students to do? Alright, they're asking students who has more money in coins and by how much. And the next part of the question is asking students this. Given that each 50-cent coin is 2.7 gram heavier than a 20-cent coin, what is the mass of Ivan's coins in kilogram? Well, we know that Helen and Ivan had some coins. But what do we know about the coins that they had? What are the important attributes that we can get from the question? First, the types of coins. Okay, there are two types of coins in this question, a 20-cent coin and a 50-cent coin. Second, the number of coins that they had. We know Helen had 64 20-cent coins and the rest are 50-cent coins. Whereas Ivan had 104 20-cent coins and the rest are 50-cent coins. And one important information is that both Helen and Ivan had the same number of coins. Now, the third attribute is the mass of coins. We know that Helen's coin weighed 1.134 kilogram and a 50-cent coin is 2.7 gram heavier than 20-cent coins. So these are the important attributes of the coins that we can extract from the question. Well, it does suggest some comparison that is necessary. But what do students need to compare? And how do they compare? We know that Helen had 64 20-cent coins and the rest are 50-cent coins. Whereas Ivan had 104 20-cent coins and the rest are 50-cent coins. By looking at the diagram, who has more 20-cent coins? Clearly is Ivan. So we can see from the diagram that Ivan had 40 more 20-cent coins than Helen. How do you get 40? It's 104 minus 64. Now, this is an important information that students need to identify from the question. Without this information, it will be very difficult for them to continue with the solving of the question. Helen had 40 more 50-cent coins than Ivan. So the amount of money is therefore 40 times 50 cents, which is $20. On the other hand, Ivan had 40 more 20-cent coins than Helen. And the amount of money is 40 times 20. So that gives $8. Comparing the two sum of money, we know that Helen had more money in coins. So this answers the first part of the question. It's not difficult, right? It's quite straightforward. As long as you identify the important information, which is the 40 coins, the 40 extra coins each had. For Helen, it will be 40 more 50-cent coins than Ivan. If you look at it from the other angle, Ivan will have 40 more 20-cent coins than Helen. Now, how do we use this information to solve the second part about the mass of Ivan's coins in kilogram? We know that a 50-cent coin is 2.7 gram heavier than a 20-cent coin. So the mass of the 40 50-cent coins will be 40 times 2.7 gram, which is 108 gram. So Helen's coin were 108 grams heavier than Ivan's coin. Be careful. Here is asking for the mass of Ivan's coin in kilogram, whereas we know that the 108 was in gram. So we know that it has to be divided by 1,000, and so that will be 0.108 kilogram. So mass of Ivan's coin in kilogram is therefore 1.134 kilogram minus 0.108 kilogram. And this gives the answer 1.026 kilogram. So is this question as difficult as what the parents had claimed? To me, I think it is not that difficult as long as you understand the question. Secondly, do we need to solve this question by algebraic equations as suggested by some parents? You can see that, it is not necessary. Just by using the model approach that the students have been taught to do in schools, I think this is good enough. I personally feel that this model approach is age appropriate, is very good for young children, because algebra is very abstract. They may not be able to navigate the algebraic procedures, the manipulation very well. So using diagram is still very good. What is important is, one, get students to understand the question. For example, the first part asking who has more money and by how much. Comparison question is pretty common in primary school national examination. So by looking at words like who has more by how much, student must be able to recognize that this is a comparison question. And this question also tests student on unit conversion. Pitching of this question is slightly higher because it wants to test student whether they are observant or not, whether they notice that 2 units are being used in the question, gram and kilogram. Alright? Because some students may just solve the question by rote. They just follow the procedures. They don't read the question carefully. And so they may miss out important details such as the difference in the units. How many approach? I think probably more than one. But the common one would be the model approach that the students are familiar with. The other one, of course, is by solving equations algebraically. I think these are the 2 common approaches that can be used to solve this question. What makes our question interesting is that students are taught the model approach. And this model approach, like what I've said earlier on, it is using, we want students to solve word problems using a diagrammatic approach by drawing a diagram. This question given to students in some other countries, they may use an algebraic approach to solve. Some may use other methods, but what is a unique feature in our Singapore math curriculum is the model approach. By drawing diagram, students are able to visualize the important information given in the question and then see relationship between all the information, make connection, make comparison, and then solve the question. So I think this is what I think the model approach is a very powerful method for students who might not have developed that abstract thinking yet, to handle algebraic approach. Even though the students learn algebra in primary 6, I think the easier method for them is still to use diagram. So regardless of the student's cognitive level, I think the model approach still works for all students in primary school. How should students tackle this question? What is important is read the question, because the first part suggests comparison is necessary. So therefore, I think once they are able to look at the diagram, try to see, what they are asked to compare, right? So since the question asks who has more coins, who has more money in coins, that means we look at the diagram, who has more coins, who has more 20-cent coins, who has more 50-cent coins, and try to identify that important information. Well, I think this question is not too difficult in terms of the phrasing. I think it's still manageable. They are phrased very, simply, and this is why I would think getting students to identify the key attributes of the coins that we can extract from the information. Like what I mentioned earlier on, the types of coins. What are the types of coins? What are the number of coins each had? And what is the mass of the coins that each had? So as long as they are able to identify these three attributes and try to see which one to use in the respective parts, the question is not difficult process. Right? So in order to unpack this question, the student need to identify these three key attributes. Well, I said that the model approach is a powerful tool for primary school students. But of course, I must also say that the model approach has its limitations as well. Algebraic approach is by far the most generic approach for any word problem. Choosing an age-appropriate method to solve the problem is still crucial. And for primary 6 students, the model approach is the best. Of course, if the students are advanced enough and they understand algebraic approach well enough, by all means, they use the algebraic approach. It is not an approach or a skills that all primary school students, must acquire to solve this question here. Even if they are not proficient in algebraic manipulation, they can still solve this question using the model approach. So that's the beauty of the model approach. Because in this question, we want the student to be able to make comparison. So a diagram would help them see the difference quickly. Why do students find this question difficult? My guess is this. Probably students are able to do the first part, who has more money in coins and by how much. But they might be stumped by the second part. Because the question didn't give students the mass of a 50-cent coin and the mass of a 20-cent coin, right? They give them the absolute difference. Okay, that means they give them the difference in mass between a 50-cent coin and a 20-cent coin. So I think this part here makes it a little bit difficult for students to process, right? So we know that the mass of Ivan's coin is lighter than the mass of Helen's coin. And how do we find that difference? The difference is caused by the 40 more 50-cent coins that Helen had than Ivan. So how do you find that difference in mass? So we do not know what is the mass of one 50-cent coin, but we do know the absolute difference. So in order to find the difference in mass, we just need to use the absolute difference to work out the difference in mass between Helen's coin and Ivan's coin. So this is probably the part that many students were not able to understand. In solving the first part, by how much, right? How much more money Helen had than Ivan? We know that a 50-cent coin is 30 cents more than a 20-cent coin. So if the difference in the number of coins is 40, I can just take 40 times the 30 cents to give me $12. So therefore, Helen would have $12 more than Ivan. I don't have to find out what is the value of the 40 50-cent coins and the value of the 40 20-cent coins and then take the difference for the first part. Alright, I can just use the absolute difference in the value of the coins. The 50 cent minus 20 cent coins, the absolute difference is 30. Take this value times 40 to give me the difference in money in coins that Helen had than Ivan. So actually the first part, some students might have just taken 40 times 30 cents to give $12, which is the answer for the first part. Alright, don't have to find out the 40 times 50 cents, which is $20, and then 40 times 20 cents, which is $8. Then take 20 minus 8 to find $12. Clearly, this is not a basic question because it doesn't get students to just simply recall and use mathematical facts or carry out routine mathematical procedures, right? It requires students to analyze the given information, select the relevant information, and then interpret the information. Interpret, for example, what 2.7 gram means. So therefore, I think this is an intermediate level kind of question. Well, I have been a math educator for close to 30 years. Previously, I taught in secondary schools, and then I moved on to the National Institute of Education. And I have been with the National Institute of Education for almost 20 years. I conduct teacher training workshops for both pre-service as well as in-service local teachers. Other than that, I also conduct professional development workshops for overseas math educators, coming from Brazil, Jamaica, to nearer countries such as Cambodia, the Philippines, and Sri Lanka. Well, am I an expert? Well, I would not like to use the word experts on myself. I would say that I do know more than many others in the area of teaching and learning of mathematics concepts, task design, as well as mathematical arguments, which include mathematical reasoning and justification. I like to inspire mathematics teachers to appreciate the beauty and the power of mathematics in real life. And I also like to help them deepen their understanding of mathematics concepts and procedures so that they are able to teach the students well.